Welcome, everybody, to the second episode of Wonder and Awe podcast. I'm Louie Schwartzberg, and I'm going to be your host. And many of you know me from the films I've done that celebrate life, because I love taking people on journeys through time and scale, making the invisible visible, and focusing on important planetary issues, like my recent film, Fantastic Fungi. My work always combines the how of science and the why of art. And I've always seen wonder and awe as that intersection between art and science. And these podcasts are going to fill that sweet spot. What I've learned over the years from personal experience and filmmaking is that this immersion in nature increases our capacity for courage, creativity, kindness, and compassion, the components we need right now in order to save our world. I want to also do a special thank you to Ruth Westridge from the Westridge Foundation. Ruth is a wonderful artist and a leader in bringing art into the world of healthcare and education. And she's also really a natural partner for the Wonder and Awe podcast. Today, I'm really proud to welcome my dear friend InQ to the podcast. He's a National Poetry Slam champion, award-winning poet, multi-platinum songwriter. He's a triple hyphenate. He's collaborated together on we've collaborated on so many projects in the past. And I always find his work so emotionally moving. He's performed with Cirque du Soleil, and his work has been featured on A&E, ESPN, and HBO's Def Jam Poetry. His new book is called Inquire Within, in which he writes about poems that talk about love, loss, forgiveness, transformation, and belief. Inquire Within brings peace and inspiration in these uncertain times. I also want to welcome Toni Blackman, an award-winning artist, educator, and expert in hip-hop and meditation. Dr. Julius Bailey described her unique work. Her legacy will be the story of a woman whose initiatives explored both the science and the spirituality of hip-hop and the spoken word. She's traveled the world as a hip-hop ambassador and will soon publish her first book, The Wisdom of the Cipher. I'd like to invite you to share your own questions for our guests throughout this live podcast. And please submit your questions in the comments section of the video. Our team will be reading them all. And don't forget to tell us where you're writing from so we can feel this global connection. InQ, you recently wrote that you've been lucky enough to spend a lot of time in nature this summer, and it's been absolutely incredible. Having lived in the city all your life, it's like learning a different language. How has this experience affected your writing this summer, and do you see it as a form of meditation?
First of all, hello. How you doing? Great to see your face, Louie. Hello, Toni. Great to see your faces. I'm excited for this conversation. Appreciate you guys having me. I'm very aware that it's a privilege to be able to spend time in nature right now, especially with everything that's going on in the world. A lot of people are going through an enormous amount of pain and suffering. So I have to say that up front, because otherwise I don't feel like I'm actually in reality. But I have gotten an opportunity to be in nature, and I've been learning a lot. And I wake up every day and there's a mountain, so I go out and I have my coffee and I look at the mountain, and the mountain doesn't want anything from me. It's not trying to sell me shit. There's no billboards on it. It's not telling me to buy this in order to feel loved or to fill up some space. And so it's been a re-education of how to be a part of the ecosystem rather than above it, which I think is one of the problems of unconscious capitalism. And yes, it's definitely impacted every part of me, and anything that impacts every part of me winds up impacting every part of my art. And so it's sneaking its way into my poems. I was literally like hiking the other day, and I noticed a caterpillar that was, crossing the hiking trail. And so I stopped and I looked at it for a while. And Louie, you make a living paying attention. I mean, your whole entire life has been about paying attention and then capturing that through your art. So I took a page from your book and I kind of looked at it for a while and tried to commune with the caterpillar. And I was just thinking, there's no way that this caterpillar knows that it's going to become a butterfly. It's just present. It's in the moment. And, nature isn't aware of itself as separate from nature. It's not even really aware of its own mortality or what's going to happen. So I think that's a uniquely human experience in both good and bad ways. And yet a caterpillar has to go through that pain to become a butterfly. And hopefully that's what we're all going through right now. I consider myself a realistic optimist. At least that's what I want to think.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I think the butterfly has inspired more art and poetry than any other creature on the planet because it symbolizes metamorphosis, change, and that's something we all go through. One thing that's a constant in my perception of life is that everything is energy and life is change.
Mm.
That is certainly true. So, Toni, you've traveled to 47 different countries, sharing your creativity in hip hop while inspiring and mentoring thousands of young creators. And you've traveled the world as a hip hop envoy for the United States State Department, going to Senegal, Ghana, the Democratic Republic of Congo, South Africa, Southeast Asia, and Brazil. I'm curious, what did you learn while working on music and meditation with people around the world? And what connections do you find across cultures?
I think, one of the things that I have noticed that is always consistent is the power of music and the energy that music carries, the way music can shift the energy in the room, shift the energy of a person. A lot of my work is rooted in improvisation and freestyling. And I pride myself on my ability to connect whether or not we speak the same language. But I can do that because of the energy. And there's this common thread where people feel joy. We feel moved. We feel inspired when the music hits you just right. And it's remembering that one of the ways that we meditate in multiple ways. Like when you go for a jog, that could be a form of meditation, a walking meditation. Looking at the mountain, like in cute, that could be a meditational moment. And I've just noticed the ways in which we exhale when the vibe is right. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Every culture does it.
That's so beautiful. When I was making Fantastic Fungi, I realized, it's a film about mushrooms, but the big takeaway was how important interconnection is in nature.
Yeah.
And how this mycelium network, this underground network that's a shared economy without greed for ecosystems to flourish. And I've always rejected, this kill or be killed macho story that a lot of nature docs do, predator versus prey.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even the essence of what Darwin wrote about. I think what we need is the feminine side of nature. Yeah. Instead of maybe survival of the fittest, what we really need right now is survival of the kindest. Yeah. So I know you recently wrote that nature takes and it gives, but it doesn't take more than what it needs, and it doesn't do it out of guilt. What has nature taught you about this interconnection and balance?
I think I mentioned it before, just that we feel like we're removed from nature, like we've conquered it somehow. And I think in doing that, we do a disservice to nature, but we also do a disservice to ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're in the situation that we're in right now, because we're basically continuing to profit off of the suffering of people and the planet over and over and over again. And it's clearly unsustainable, but we do it because we think we're better than any other life form. And we're not. We're actually not better than any other life form. And I'll go one step beyond. We're a part of the evolution of life. If the timeline goes long enough, life will transform into something else. And so I think we need to return to a sense of humility, mm-hmm. In terms of how we interact with the world, and also how we interact with each other.
Yeah. That interaction with each other is so critically important, especially now. We are witnessing it each and every day how we can make improvements. A lot of my work is rooted in the cipher in hip hop. And that's why I talk about the wisdom of the cipher. And the cipher is just a circle. And that circle is sacred. And you look in nature, circles, they're so perfect. Our eyes in the flower. But how difficult it is for a human, a man, a woman to make a perfect circle. It's difficult for us to do it without some sort of tool to help us.
Well, speaking of circles reminds me of the poem you did, One Dot. Inky, would you mind sharing that with us? You think you could do that?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. How can something this big be invisible? The environment is everywhere, and yet it isn't visible. Maybe if we saw it, we would see it's not invincible and have to take responsibility as individuals. How can something this big be invisible? If it's all around us, it should show itself on pure principle. The scientists are certain that the damage is residual and climate change data is reaching levels that are critical, yet somehow that's political. We argue over math. Our citizens are too cynical to believe in facts. We make excuses and hold on to the recent past we don't want to sacrifice, so we refuse to ask. I grew up in a city. It's all I ever knew. So even now, I have nothing to compare it to. I have to hit the park to see more than a tree or two. I have to visit nature like it's in a fucking zoo. But California was wild before the parking lot, before the mass malls, before designer shops, before the strip clubs, before the sea change, when mountain lions roam freely over freeways, before the fast food, before the freeze frames. We live around a bunch of dead shit these days. It's not an argument for better or worse. It's an observation on how we've been treating Mother Earth. See, we protect what is ours. My land, my life, my house, my kids, my job, my wife, my dog, my car, my country, my culture. But when it comes to nature, our perspective is external. It's the planet, the forest, the ocean, the sky, the mountain, the valleys, always the. Never mind if it's not me, never mind. I'm too busy all the time. And without the ownership, we ignore the warning signs. Just look at all the species on the planet that are dying. The coral reefs, the honeybees mysteriously dying. 1/4 of all the mammals that exist are dying. 1/3 of all amphibians are at the risk of dying. We're on a path to mass extinction. It's almost like we're trying because we're relying on an atmosphere that we've been frying. I could use more statistics, but you probably think I'm lying because over half the politicians we elect deny them. Well, since when did their opinion outweigh the science? I thought experiments are fundamentally unbiased. Capitalism uses nature as its example and excuse for competition. The only problem is we've removed it from the ecosystem. Profit and balance in the market are attainable, but growth without a conscience is completely unsustainable. I mean, a lion doesn't kill all the gazelle. Why do we have to have it all to ourselves? Pretty soon, there'll be nothing left but concrete and cars. And when you see an animal, it'll be like seeing a movie star. The planet, the forest, the ocean, the skies, the mountains, the valleys, always the. Never mind if it's not me, never mind. I'm too busy all the time. And without the ownership, we ignore the warning signs. Our planet, our forest, our ocean, our skies, our mountains, our valleys, always we, always mine, my planet, my forest, my ocean, my sky, my mountains, my valleys, always we, always mine, always ours, always yours. One little dot in trillions of stars. One little dot. It's all that we've got. We just forgot that none of it's ours. We just forgot that all of it's ours. One little dot in trillions of stars.
Awesome.
Yes.
Yes, that's so good.
Thank you.
So good. I don't know how you do it, bro.
Just one word at a time.
Yeah, but Toni, I was curious. How did you discover this connection between hip hop and meditation? And I was curious, how does that play a role or does it play a role in your meditation practice?
Yeah, I finally accepted that a lot of my meditation, my practice has been rooted in art and creativity, whether it was through poetry and spoken word, through music, through hip hop, and it has always been there. I just didn't have the words or the science, so I couldn't articulate it. But others who observed me at work would then point certain things out, and then over a period of a decade, I started to be able to identify what was taking place. When I started the Freestyle Union Cypher workshop in DC, I intuitively knew at 22, I can't remember how old I was when I started, 23, I intuitively knew to have the lights low. I knew to play a certain kind of hip hop. So I would play a Tribe Called Quest beats. And a lot of them, they sampled Weldon Irvine and Ron Carter. And I knew to make the place smell a certain way and to sit the seats in a circle. That was all intuitively happening to create a vibe. And it wasn't until an elder poet came in and started to point out to me what I was doing that I began to understand, which is why I also believe that we do a disservice to hip hop and to popular music when we make it a teeny bopper phenomenon, not understanding that what makes it most powerful is when the generations are interconnected and involved. And so that's how it came to me. And then I just started to talk, and I was working with a producer in 2013, and I was reconnecting with my art and my craft, and it was through partnering with him. He was sort of a midwife, and I kept doing it. And I am so grateful. Whatever force has been guiding me to stay on this path, and it wasn't all me. It wasn't like an intellectual decision.
That's great. It's beautiful that you can have your inner voice be your guide and your best teacher. Because you are your best friend.
Yeah, but some folks think it's a bit strange. It took a while for me to accept it.
But that's what I think we're trying to have everybody do on their own. We're not trying to tell anyone how to live their life or preach a certain way of living. We just want them to listen to themselves, right?
Yeah. Some folks will say, they'll say, well, I was being interviewed for, it was a Protege podcast, and the host, he said, well, what was your career strategy? How did you end up in these 48 countries? How did you build this? How did you do that? And then in the end of it, I didn't know. And he said, so your strategy was just faith. And I was like, it was just faith.
That's beautiful. Well, I think it was faith that brought us together in Q, because it was about 10 years ago where, we worked together on the video project for the One Drop Foundation. And the One Drop Foundation, their mission is to bring, clean drinking water to impoverished communities. And it was a video about social justice and interconnecting humanity. And it seems like not a lot has changed in the last 10 years in terms of social justice and inequality. So I'm curious.
Go ahead.
I mean, why do you think these issues are surfacing again now? And how can we be the change agents for a more equitable future?
I mean, that's a really important and complicated question. I mean, I was just going to say to you, I was watching a James Baldwin interview recently from 1968. And yeah, it just seemed like it could have been recorded yesterday or tomorrow, unfortunately. So it's really painful that these issues have not been fully resolved, and that they need to be resurfaced. But it is a need. It's necessary. Like, I don't think the coronavirus in general has brought up anything in our society that wasn't already a huge problem. It's just kind of brought it to the light. So systemic racism, inequality, issues with the healthcare system, the complete and lack, of leadership from our politicians. All of those things were already there. So, I'd rather that we're actually talking about them and that everyone is getting involved in the conversation. But I'm certainly a student of what's going on as much as I am a participant. And I'm trying to figure out how to do better in my own personal life, and how we can do better collectively in real ways, by the way, not Band-Aids for these issues, but dealing with the wound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how about how about a little blast from past? Let's take a look at that video, okay?
Okay.
We are one drop in an ocean of God, connected by our isolation, and ourselves are our incarceration, and our boundaries are imaginary lines that divide us into separate nations when we're the same creation. We use technology to keep us in communication, and yet there's nothing better than a simple conversation. They say that it's the journey, not the destination. I say the journey is the destination. We're facing global climate changes. Forests are endangered while we're chasing paper, buying things to help distract us from our human nature. Luxury and compensation when our accomplishments are far beyond how much we're making. It's what we're making. The ripple effect. I throw a rock into a lake and know the water's rising, even if it's at the smallest rate. And as the level elevates, it escalates. Get 1 million people throwing rocks and you can see the change. Gandhi said to be the change and he the change, so we the change. And honestly, we need to change. The time will never be the same. Even though we're different, we are all the same. He the same and she the same, so we the same. How can I complain about the minor things when there are human beings dying just to find a simple drink? Migrating miles for what's pouring out my kitchen sink. It forces me to sit and think. What is the missing link? You see, it's hard to comprehend, but we are all in sync. So we have a responsibility to act. Actually, this moment, in fact, is all you'll ever really have. And right beneath the haves and the have-nots are never-hads. And yet they smile brighter than the actors from these clever ads, telling us to spend $1,000 to get some trendy swag when we could take the same amount and end the suffering they have. There's no third world. There is only one world, one sky and one earth. One man is not an island. He's an endless universe, manifesting inner dreams. Anything is possible, as long as all of us believes anything is possible. As long as one of us believes anything is possible. At least that's what I believe.
So, both of you, your poems inspire, a sense of wonder and awe. And I was curious, how does wonder and awe help you write, your poems about love and forgiveness, transformation, belief? Both of you, either one of you. Yeah. How does it turn you on? Go ahead, Toni.
Well, I'm fascinated with feeling. I'm fascinated with energy. I'm fascinated by vibration. That I say this. I love talking with young people who, when the young hip hop head, there was one young girl from the Bronx, and she said, "You know what, Miss T? I understand that energy shit you was trying to teach us." Mm. And I'm like, yes, I'm winning. I'm winning. Because she gets it. Like when you walk into a room, you don't need words to know what just happened. Hmm. You know if there's goodness here, or you know if there's negativity here. You know if people are afraid. You know if people are experiencing sorrow. You know. And I've just always been, I wonder about it. Like, and I'm in awe of our capacity as humans. Mm-hmm. To see and understand. Now, do we tap into that enough? No. Do we pay attention to it enough? No. Have we studied ourselves enough? Absolutely not. But maybe that's why I'm in awe of it, because I don't understand enough of it, and I'm very much a student.
You know, a while back I was at Heart Math. You know, it's just like, scientific place that studies, brain waves, heart variability. Apparently, when you walk into a room, I know we've all done this. You go, like, there's a party, there's like a dozen people, and somehow you instantly gravitate to one person versus another, And the reason why, apparently, is that instantaneously you can feel the heart rate vibration of that person and whether or not that's in sync with yours. And immediately, this light energy goes into your eye, goes into your brain, sends a signal to your heart, and your heart sends a signal back up to the brain that makes you gravitate to one person versus another. So it's pretty amazing to think that that's all happening within a millisecond,
Yeah.
So I think we're just scratching the surface of being able to discover, with science, what we all intuitively know, the vibe, of a certain person, the vibe of that party, the vibe of the room. It is something that is measurable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can feel it. And I'm always amazed. I'm from the West Coast. I'm from the Bay Area in California. I've been in New York 20 years, lived in DC before that. But there's a part of me that is still very, very West Coast, particularly after having traveled all over. I just kind of came back to myself. But I can tell on the days when I am not being enough of a New Yorker, people talk to me, even if I have my headphones on and they make me take my headphones off. And people tell me stuff that they have no business telling a stranger. And people trust me with their belongings and their children and their babies. I know that there's a part of me that I was never guarded enough. I'm either brick wall to protect myself, or I'm just wide open, and it's gotten me in a lot of trouble, and I've experienced a lot of pain because of my, I just haven't been good at boundaries until recent years. But it's also, I'm told by people who love and appreciate me, it's also part of my beauty. Mm-hmm. And is that's that openness. But it got me in trouble though, so let me stop. It got me in trouble. Goodness gracious.
So I know that music is a big part of both your lives, and it's also really important in the work that I do. I've got this series on Netflix called Moving Art. It's music and imagery with no narration. And I think it's sort of a new form of storytelling that allows your inner voice to be heard. Mm-hmm. I also give the composer a tremendous amount of creative latitude. I just say, I want you to feel the vibe of what you're looking at and just create that, And it's rare, I think, for composers to have that kind of freedom when it comes to film and TV. And but I see them as a partner in telling a story. And so we have this 50-50 relationship. So I know that, Toni, I know you've collaborated with musicians around the world. I'm just curious, like, what have you learned from them? And how does that collaboration, shape your ideas and your words?
Well, I think each poet, each vocalist, each lyricist is different. Some people are heady, and the words really carry a lot of weight and in terms of how they start. And there are others of us, our creative process comes directly from whatever this musician is going to play right now, whatever this beat maker is doing, whatever this DJ is doing, that your words automatically articulate whatever energy they're giving off. And so I know in different countries, let's say particularly on the continent of Africa, where I've done a great deal of my work, and in Brazil, I've noticed the way different drummers, no matter where they are, the way they embody rhythm. I mean, just truly, truly embody rhythm. And the way a vocalist who is not speaking words, just vocalizing, can penetrate your soul without one word, with just singing. And I love it. And like in Senegal, there was the call to prayer coming from the mosque, and there was a guy singing. I don't know what he was saying, but it made me cry. It brought me to tears because he felt it so deeply within his soul. And when he saw me about to cry, he was about to cry. But I love having those moments and those experiences. It's when I wish I was a little bit more of a free spirit. You know, in the movies, how you have this person who just grabs a backpack and they just go live in another country and they have their big stick. I have too many dietary issues to live that way, but I wish I could.
Well, hey, EQ, you've worked with great musicians as well. I know you worked with Selena Gomez. I'm curious, how does that help you with your work in writing, for music?
Well, I just want to say real quick, based on what Toni was talking about.
Yeah.
Like, there's amazing music in America, of course. But like, I had this line the other day, I was thinking, because I was like listening to the birds chirp in the background, and I was talking to somebody on the phone, and I said to them, the birds aren't singing to win a Grammy.
Yes.
So that purity that you're talking about, of that experience that you had, it doesn't even matter if you know the language or have any idea what the person is saying, because they're communicating a soul language.
Right. Yeah.
And it was communicated to you, and then it resonated with you on such a deep level that it communicated back to the person that was singing. And that's what makes music, as you said at the beginning, so unbelievably special and healing. Okay. So the question, Louie, that you asked was, how is there a difference between poetry and songwriting for me? And I kind of stumbled into songwriting. I was actually just really broke, I didn't quite figure out how to turn my poetry into something that I could monetize in a way where I could maintain my artistic integrity for a long time. And in that window in between, I got really lucky. I got signed to a publishing deal with an extended family now called Rock Mafia. And we just started making pop music. They'd been doing it for years, all sorts of different types of music. I mean, they're unbelievably talented musicians. But I think they saw my poetry and maybe thought that I could bring a certain edge to some of these artists that they were working with. And so I got a chance to come in and start songwriting. And songwriting is very, very different than my poetry writing, at least my experience, because my poetry, the foundation of it is hip hop. And so it's very choppy. It's very rhythmic. There's a lot of information that you can fit into one sentence, let alone a whole entire verse or a whole entire song. And when you're writing pop music, it's very round. There's so much space in there. You have to say so much less and more simultaneously. It has to be deep enough where people return to it, but not so deep that it pulls them out of the song. So there's a lot of lessons that I learned along the way. And, I wasn't listening to pop music at all then. I don't listen to pop music at all now. So it was weird for me to dedicate my time and my passion to doing that. And over the years, I've done everything from, Selena Gomez, Miley Cyrus. I've written over 50 Disney songs, but then I've also done stuff with Aloe Black and Foster the People and Mike Posner. And it's a different love, but it comes from the same place. Mm-hmm. And I love the collaboration of it. Whereas when I'm writing my poetry, it's so personal. I'm so in my own cocoon, just digging into my mind, digging into my heart to get out whatever is in there. And then when I'm sitting in the room with other songwriters, we're actually bouncing off of each other. And the energy is like flying all around, and you just kind of have to catch it. So that is the long answer to what you asked.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, we talked about a little bit that we're going through some uncertain times right now. And there's definitely a lot of conflicting forces. I kind of lived through it, like you said earlier, in your reference to that interview in 1968. These are times of confrontation. But there was some goodness actually that occurred in the early 70s. It was like, the birth of Earth Day, the beginning of the movements for women, people of color. Every action has the equal and opposite reaction. The repression we're getting from, the politicians like Donald Trump is the same thing, if not worse, than what we had from Richard Nixon. I'm curious, can either one of you tell me, what gives you hope and what keeps you strong?
I bow to you.
Well, I have not felt strong in recent months. I felt human. I felt very human. And I felt very connected to the Most High, to God. I felt connected to my ancestors. But I have not felt strong. And I think my hope, where do I get hope? I don't know. I think I'm like in Q. I'm what do you call it? Optimistic realist?
Realistic optimist.
Yes. Realistic optimist. I am that person. For me, I'm a sensitive. I'm a highly sensitive. I'm an HSP. So negative energy, negative emotions, pessimism, cynicism makes me physically ill. Yeah. So honestly, selfishly speaking, I don't have a choice. I live in the light. I stay in the light because right now I like being alive. And I am a believer. I think I came out the womb like this. I don't know, Louie. I don't know. It's a hard question.
It is a hard one.
It is hard. I just want to say that at the risk of coming off pretentious, I don't want to at all, but this came to my mind while you were talking. You don't have to feel strong to be strong. And you are strong. This is just an insane time. And it's just every day is just another trauma. And then we're dealing with the climate change issues and 1 million people being unemployed and over 1,000, Americans died today. Yeah. It's unless you're checking, it's very easy to just kind of go on with your own routine. So I think it's sometimes difficult to find hope, but even hope can be despair in disguise if we're not careful. Hope can be like, I hope something where it's like, what can we do, for ourselves, for the people immediately around us, for our communities, and for society as a whole. And that's a ever changing equation that we're all trying to figure out in real time.
Yeah.
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 But in Q, in your book, Inquire Within, you talk about taking your pain and transforming it into growth. So I'm wondering, like, during this time of pain in this pandemic, are there any lessons in that?
Yeah, I mean, there's an enormous amount of lessons. I think for any individual to make a systemic change, they usually have to face a trauma. And it's something that wakes them up and shakes them up out of their normal routine and allows them to see themselves from a different perspective. And in that window of time, they have an opportunity to make change that can last for the rest of their life. But if they fall back asleep again, they might not get another chance for 20 years. And I think that an individual is like a collective. And so I think that this is our collective opportunity. Mm-hmm. And look, there will be an end to the virus. I mean, they are just, I don't care what people think about vaccines. I'm like, whatever. They're going to find a vaccine for it, and they are going to end this. But there's not going to be a vaccine for climate change. Right. And if we fall back asleep again, we are going to wake up in 20 years to an existential threat. And if we fall back asleep again, we are going to wake up to unmanageable division. I mean, the further that we get, as you look at this political division, we're like, it's harder to bridge that gap, and it's harder to imagine how these two sides can coexist in the same country. So I think this is the time for all of us to take personal and collective responsibility for how we're showing up in the world.
Yeah. I fully agree. This is a time. I was having a conversation. It was an interview but with a group in a group context where I talked about how critically important it is for each of us to do our own individual inner work right now. And so that if it is that you seek to be a part of a change movement, and that's no matter, I mean, there's so many areas. Let me not even start listing the areas that need work, right? That need soldiers on the front lines. So there's 12 things that are hella wrong right now. They are going to lead to great suffering if we don't do something. But it also starts with making sure that you yourself are grounded and centered, making sure that you yourself have matured emotionally, that you have challenged your own biases, that you have healed your own issues with relationship, being able to relate with others, being able to give and knowing how to receive. And that you are taking optimal care of yourself so that you can sustain yourself, so that you can be alert and on point when your voice and your mind are needed. That's where we are right now, where each of us has to be committed to doing that work right alongside anything else we're doing.
I agree. And I think most people would say they never have the time to do it. And guess what? Somehow nature put us all on pause.
Right.
And it's like, okay, this is a good opportunity to do what you just described. And guess what? The world does not come to an end. The economy does not come crashing down. We need to figure out solutions and do a major reboot because we don't want to go back to normal. Normal was not a good thing. Right. Tons of children were starving. And you can go on and list all the things that were wrong. So this is a beautiful opportunity to figure out when this does subside, where do we go from here? And I know these are heavy duty questions I'm laying on you and hard things to think about. But on the other hand, you may say, well, why worry? So I want to play the video Toni did that I love called Why Worry?
Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? Why worry? If you want to keep it all going and energy flowing, we must remember and know worry does not make us strong. It just brings the negative on. It becomes like a prayer of all that we fear. Intention unclear, you be losing your hair and losing your sleep when your thoughts compete with your dream. When they're filled with worry, we lose patience and we're in a hurry, thinking ourselves into anxiety. Some will think you're crazy because you choose not to worry. Please let them be. Set yourself free. Manage your own energy emotionally. Faith without works just is dead. But there is no faith when you live in your head. Ha, ha, ha. Why worry? 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 Why worry about the things where we have control? If we have control. Why worry about the things that we don't control? If we can't control.
Peace out. If you can't control it, then you ain't got nothing to worry about.
That's great. Toni, I noticed that I think you wrote that, synchronicities played a big role in your life and in your art. I'm always blown away. When I used to travel, you go around the world or even just to the market, and you run into somebody, a friend, and you never could have timed that, we call it coincidence or synchronicity. And I'm just curious, for both of you, how do you think synchronicity has played a role in your life and in your art?
For me, it's always been about synchronicity. I think the more intentional we live, the more pure we keep our hearts, the more in tune we are with just being in flow. Synchronicities occur all over the place. And when we live with clear intentionality, I have a friend who wasn't a good friend, but there was truth to it. There was truth to what she said. It was a negative, but she said it in a negative sense, but she said, "You're so childlike at times." And the way you just believe, the way you dream, it's so childlike. But that childlike, it was like the wonder and awe, Louie. She perceived that as being childish. Mm-hmm. That wonder and awe is what has allowed me to travel all over the world and to do things that beyond whatever I dreamed of doing in the exact way I was supposed to be doing it. Like there was no hip hop ambassador when I was graduated from high school and saying I wanted to go around the world. When I was 18, I said I wanted to get a PhD in rap. So I don't know if they call it hip hop until 2 years later. You know what I mean? And so there's that space, and but I think I'm thinking about how, it's like you said, Louie, you can think of a person and they call you, or I can go downtown Manhattan and I bump into someone who I've been thinking about. I think that this happens more often than people realize. It's just they don't acknowledge it.
Yeah. Well, I think consciousness is everywhere. It's not like, it's in our brain and we're broadcasting out to the world. We are receiving signals. It's why I think schools of fish can all, swim together and birds flock together in certain ways. And it's just another example, I think, of the interconnectedness of life that we all feel. But I'm glad that, you mentioned how, wonder and awe is key for your creativity and how it makes you feel in the moment. And for me, it just puts me right into the divine. And when I feel that, then I realize that it engenders gratitude. And scientific studies have shown that, gratitude can reduce stress, anxiety, and worry while improving focus, creativity, and a sense of connection. So gratitude is this overwhelming sense of joy that we feel that we're part of something. And that interconnectedness in nature is something that isn't new age and hippie anymore, because in my Fantastic Fungi film, we scientifically, have evidence how everything truly is connected. So, in fact, I think it liberates us. And I think that blowing your mind is a medicinal. And so I'm just curious, like, how does gratitude, how is that important in your work and the benefits you find in terms of being grateful?
I think gratitude is like a muscle that you have to build up consciously on a daily basis. And I also think, if everything is energy, which it is, because the coincidence that you're talking about has to do with that heart math you were saying earlier, which is a vibration, and we're all just vibrating energy. Then, like, imagine if the universe gives you a gift, right? And you don't actually fully say thank you for that gift. Well, if that was like a person, like if I gave you something and you were like, oh, thanks. But then you started like analyzing it and you were like, it's really cool. It's not exactly what I wanted. It's nice. I'll probably use this and appreciate it. I might not like be angry at you, like in terms of like, fuck that guy. But I wouldn't give you another gift. I'd give it to someone else. So there's so many things on a daily basis that we're receiving that we have to like consciously have gratitude for the universe to like actually get on the same vibration so that the universe as an entity feels appreciated. Why would the universe not want to feel appreciated? It'll just naturally, I'm not saying like it's thinking about this, but it will just naturally go where it feels acknowledged, where it syncs up. So that's something that I actually do. And I do it like homework. Mm-hmm. Every single day, like in both of my meditations in the cool down period, I'm thinking about the things that I'm grateful for. And I'm saying like, thank you. Like, I would like more of this, please. I appreciate this. And I find that the more that I do that, the more gifts I receive.
Yes. The more, like during this, one of the ways I've survived, I see a question from Monroe who's asking, how do we continue to be inspired to create with there's so much uncertainty? And for me, gratitude is one of the ways. Being grateful. When this COVID shutdown hit, I was on the verge of like 3 major professional breakthroughs. All were smashed, wiped off the table. And I was crushed. For like 2 weeks. Like I was crushed. Like I was set to make more than I had since 2012. Like I was crushed. And but after 2 weeks of crying, I said, it's evolve or die. And then when people started to die, literally, I had a neighbor 2 floors down who died. And then one of my musical mentors, he died. And I was like, oh, wait, people are going to really die. And I just had to dig deep. Like I dug so deep for gratitude. So each day was almost doing gratitude prayer that brought me to tears. Like just feeling so grateful. And then I started to create from that space of great gratitude. Like I have these gifts, I have this space, I have room. I had a couple of sponsors that had given me equipment, and now I actually had time to learn how to use it. And I had a few guys who had offered to tutor me because they had time too. So I'm like, you mean I don't have to pay for the tutorials? So there was no excuse. Like, okay, Toni, let's go. And so that's that. But gratitude is what got me into the space. And then I practiced saying thank you.
Yeah.
And so now my thank yous have become so from my core, like I really mean them. Some people don't know how to take it because I'm a bit of a poet performer, like NQ, but mine is like fully feminine expressed. And they get a little, oh, that's a lot of love, you know? I said, you're going to get this love, buddy.
Well, look, I think it's so true in these uncertain times. You can always find something to be grateful for. You can be grateful for the fact that you're breathing, grateful for the fact that you got like 5 fingers on each hand. And the more you can fill that hard drive in your head with good stuff, it leaves less room for the negative thoughts, I think, to enter. And it's, yeah, I mean, for me, it's a go-to, you know, it's my G spot.
I'm just gonna nod.
Capital G for gratitude, you know, but it's capital G for God, you know. But if when I'm going through a negative spiral, I just pull out that G thing and I go, gee whiz, I can really use this right now. So, hey, one of the most amazing poems I've ever heard in Q is I Love 85. The first time you did it in my house, I cried. I think every time I hear it, I cry. Spoiler alert. So I'd love to play the video, which is, I think, the essence of gratitude is love. You know, it all comes down to love. And I think gratitude is a portal into that feeling we all want to get to. So let's play the video.
I want to fall in love at 85, go on shuffleboard dates, and dance to hip-hop from 95. We'd rock matching tracksuits and rope gold chains. We'd look like Run DMC, but in their old age. We'd take aerobics classes and wear bifocal glasses and eat at IHOP and hold hands at Sunday masses. And when it comes to the bedroom, well, nothing much would happen in the bedroom because we're 85. But we would still be down to take a walk or take a drive or sit and talk or have a drink, watch the passersby, ask each other why and how and who and where and when, and then we'd laugh and cry again about the people we had been. I would touch her withered skin and comment on how thin it is to keep in something infinite. And she would smile, sweet and blush, then tell me that I think too much. She's right, I think too much. It's always been a problem. But then again, that's how I made my green like the goblin. When I was in my 20s, I was eating top ramen, counting up my pennies, saving up to go food shopping. But now I'm 85, and somehow I feel more alive. I turn my hearing aid up and bump Jurassic 5. And when it comes to the bedroom, well, hopefully, every once in a while, she lets me knock her boots into the floral patterns of our bedpost, then hold her head close like death isn't chasing us, planning on erasing us and replacing us with better versions of us, reshaping us, remaking us, then recreating us with new identities so we can make new memories. Hush, little baby. Learn to walk and talk and think and lie and feel and fight and love and die and never get the answers why. She dips a joint of grass in wheatgrass and we get high. Her hair is silver as the moon in the Miami sky. We still pop pills, but it's not the Xanax anymore. Whenever we can't sleep, we listen to the ocean floor. She got a Sound of the Sea CD for me from the Brookstone store, and ever since I've been snoring like a really good metaphor for snoring. Sorry, I go blank sometimes. What? I'm 85. I'm not complaining. I'm just happy that I'm still alive. And happy that I have my better half by my side, Superfly. She doesn't look a day over 65. When I first saw her, I was totally in awe. She was classical, so I was like, yo, yo, ma. And that was all it took. A single look and I was shook. I fell for her like some loose shingles from our Spanish roof. And I'ma love her till she loses every last root and has to glue dentures to her gums to chew solid food. Ooh, now that's real love, dude. That's some push comes to shove love. Not when it's convenient, love. Hospital bed love. Feed her ice chips, love. Never leave the room, love. Sleeping in the chair, love. Pray to up above, love. Have to pull the plug. Miss her in my bones, love. Everything about her, love. Die within a month, love. Can't live without her, love. Love. The only reason that we are alive, and none of us should have to wait until we're 85.
There we go. Well, I want to thank you guys. I think it was really a beautiful journey into wonder and awe. And I think it's very fitting that, you know, as a sponsor today, we have Ruth from the Ruth Westridge Foundation. What they do is they bring art into healthcare to help people heal faster. It's something that I'm also very interested in. And also want to be able to thank my incredible team that helps put these together. Leland, Annie, Courtney, Sarah from Moving Art, and Bethany, Ron, Jason, and Bobby from Magical Threads. I want everyone that's been, you know, on this podcast, it's been listening to this podcast, to just be able to soak up the joy. In Q, I agree with you. Gratitude is a muscle you have to work on. It's easy to go negative. It actually takes work to go positive because of the primal fear factor that is in we're hardwired to do. A lot of times, like, you know, good news happens, you go, oh, that's great. And like a minute later, you're like on to the next problem, you know? Where something negative comes in, it could be a little comment, whatever. And it's like, it hangs with you all day long. Like, why did that guy say that to me? You know what I mean?
We get high on negativity.
Yeah.
We're addicted to our own suffering. But there's also real reasons, especially right now, that are just overwhelmingly negative, and we're having to navigate it every single day. So I think what Toni said is really right, which is that we have to wake up every day. And there's a saying, you know, you wake up every day and you have to decide, are you going to save the world or are you going to savor the world? Mm-hmm. And everyone has to find whatever balance, you know, they can do for their own life, and that will change over time. So we can't be there for other people unless we first are there for ourselves. But we can't just be there for ourselves right now. We have to be there for other people.
Yeah. Self-care equals world care, and vice versa. It's quite true. It's almost like a oxymoron that you're not taking care of yourself, but you're taking care of the world, you know?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Well,
I know you guys are super inspiring to lots of people, and I commend you guys for being change agents, you know, edge runners, rebellious, revolutionary. I love that. That's what we need to be. You got to kick the serious butt, you know?
I have something I want to share. Can I share?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, gratitude or wonder and awe, dreams. And now I don't know which one to share, Louie.
Whichever one feels is like hitting your soul at the moment.
Okay. Good God, giving thanks with an attitude of gratitude. What else am I to do? I'm alive and I'm breathing. I'm living many dreams. It ain't been easy, or so it seems. For more joy, I'm fiending. Against these demons, I've been scheming. It's like life got good, then good got better, then bam. Found myself shadow boxing with bad weather, sweating like summertime, dressed in full leather. They said life was simple, but it forced me to be clever. Inner light started to flicker, skin got thicker, soul got richer. Now I see the picture. down but not out, quiet tears followed by shouts through screams, streams, visualizing new scenes, new ways, new means, manifesting old dreams. Never thought that life could feel so wrong. Never thought that these lessons would keep coming on. Never thought that I would even live this long. Never thought I could ever be this strong. Rocking mics from the Congo to Paris and Hong Kong. Yo, on, in wonder and awe. I'm telling all y'all, Louie called and we had to stand tall. Yes, yes, y'all. To my man NQ. Yes, we had to come through. Woo! Thank you, Louie.
Thank you. Wow, what a beautiful way to wrap it up, right? Love it. That was so beautiful and spontaneous. Again, my hat off to both you guys. I have no idea you can do it. I can't even remember what I had for lunch. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your art, your passion, your hearts, your soul. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, and Louie, we love you, bro. Thank you so much for doing all the work you do in the world.
Yes, thank
Toni,
you.
this has been such a pleasure. It's
Yes.
with everyone out there, I hope you're happy and healthy under the circumstances, and do something kind for yourself tonight.
Please.
Okay, we'll reconnect soon. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody.